So I think it's fair to say that across the African continent, a lot of us were Morocco on Saturday afternoon. I had said in the build-up to their their quarter-final win over Portugal that I was convinced beyond every doubt that they had what it took. It was primarily out of knowing that Morocco play a brand of football that's heavy on being tactical, on defending in the right spots, of having big-name personalities. Ziyech and Nesri, the goal scorer himself, Bruno, the goalkeeper, has been immense. And having followed African football for as long as I have, it was obvious to me that this Morocco team had proven right from the group stages through to the knockout phase that they had the capacity to deal with many of the things that had incapacitated African countries who had gotten to this stage. Now, I have said several times that I think it's a bit of a crying shame that we are now talking about a fair semi-finalist for the continent in the history of the World Cup. But you've got to celebrate your small wins. And this Morocco win, whilst in the larger context of African football, in the larger context of how long you've taken, may represent a small one. It's a hugely significant one. It's massive on many scales. And it has lessons for the rest of the continent beyond just who the coach is and that sort of thing. So we'll take it one by one now. The first time I saw an African country play in the quarterfinal of the World Cup was the first time anybody did. That was the Cameroon side of the 1990 World Cup. I loved that Cameroon side. It had characters, it had names, it had personalities. They stepped onto the pitch and you thought, wow. The first time seeing them play against Argentina, who had the great Diego Maradona, and then Francois Mambique knocks in that ball. But there were characters beyond that. Roger Miller's performance in the second round game against Colombia, scoring the goal and then going on to do the jiggy dance, entering the history books with the way that he played. And then there was the goalkeeper, Thomas Nkono, who was so good that he went on to inspire a certain young Gigi Buffon so much that he named his son after him. Now, these were characters on their own. There was Steven Tatao. There was Francois Mambique, who scored that opening goal. There was Cyril Makenaki, an incredible player by all means, dreadlocked, very powerful in midfield, led by the Russian Valery Nepomniachtchi. Then it took a considerable while before the continent got to that stage again. It took another 8 years, not more than 8 years. It took 2012, so it was 2002. It was 12 years afterwards since another country from the continent got to that stage. And if you thought that Cameroon team was good, I really think that Senegal team was better. The first World Cup I worked on as a pundit for TV3, we spent mornings with Christopher Poku, may his soul rest in peace. And that Senegal team made those late nights absolutely worth our while. El Hadji Diouf was magnetic. It was lovely watching him. It was lovely watching him dictate play. It was lovely how they took France apart in the opening game when the late Papa Bouba Diop, the wardrobe, scored the opening goal, and then they went on to do that jiggy dance. Then they went on to have big performances. But the hurt for me from an African perspective was how they couldn't do it against Turkey when it seemed to be like a game they could have won. Then there was the Ghana team of the 2010 World Cup, where a team that I commentated on for the BBC World Service throughout the tournament. In that opening game against Serbia, there had been a lot of talk about how strong Serbia were, about how much they were the dark horses of the tournament again, about they coming with Kuzmanovic and all these players and a lot of hype around them. And Ghana, in that game in Pretoria, really dominated that game. Kuzmanovic handling, Asamoah Gyan stepping up, banging that ball into the net and giving the Black Stars Africa's first win. Then, we went on. That second round game against the USA, one of the best games Ghana has played at the World Cup, one of the best goals Ghana has scored. Asamoah Gyan's goal, shoulder barging Carlos Bocanegra on the way, almost off balance, and then hitting one of the sweetest shots you would ever see in the history of the World Cup past Tim Howard. Now, what happened in the quarterfinal game is something that none of us will forget. But I think that when you look at the lessons of Ghana, you look at the lessons of Senegal, you look at the lessons of Cameroon, I picked up only one thing from them. It seemed to me that at the back of the minds of a lot of these countries, they had achieved the pinnacle of it all. The celebration, the light, the excitement, the adulation and everything. It almost seemed to me as if for Africa, the quarterfinal in the minds of many players, in the minds of many coaches, in the minds of many officials, represented a glass ceiling. And that's why I always got hits that we never crossed past it. Now, that in that Cameroon game against England, Cameroon really were undone by moments when they lost concentration. Gary Lineker taking advantage and scoring twice. Senegal did the same thing. Now, if you compare the journey to that part, Turkey had a good team, Regba Rus too, and the rest were a really solid, well ironed out team. But that Bruno Metsu managed Senegal side could match them in every department of the field, whether it was goalkeeper Tony Silva, whether it was the central midfielder Aliou Cisse, whether it was Omar Daf at right back, whether it was Haji Diop, the enigmatic one, whether it was Khalilou Fadiga, who had one of the most fantastic left foots you could ever see in African football. This was a Senegal side that could match up to anybody. And that's why I thought Morocco could do it. Because the Morocco team do realize that you don't have to be open against anybody, that you don't have to go gung-ho against anybody, that you can sit back and wait in games and pick your moments, and that you can pick your moments in the right spot. And something that a lot of the other teams didn't have. Cameroon didn't have that in 1990, Ghana didn't have that in 2010, Senegal didn't have that in 2002. It's an ability to manage games in the most efficient manner. Look how they shut out Spain for long spells. They said to Spain, look, you are the ones who say you are the masters of football. You are the ones who say you are the masters of tiki-taka. Now, come pass us. And they couldn't. And then Rodri goes on to talk that absolute nonsense about Morocco not playing anything. Having to break down teams, having to prevent teams from scoring is doing something. Beating your opponents in a penalty shootout is doing something. And that is why when Morocco scored against Portugal, making the most of Diego Costa's error in coming out for the ball, I thought this could be game over, because Regragui has built a team that's well ironed out, that has the capacity to defend and all that. And for me, that was beautiful. It was beautiful to see. It's been beautiful to see the family-like atmosphere around Morocco. It's a great credit to African football. It's also a reminder of the things that we've not done right. And I hope that what Morocco has done will be a constant reminder to the rest of the continent that when you get to a stage in the competition and there's more to achieve, you put your mind to that, because I really don't think that in the past the continent has been able to do that. France will be a major, major test, but we've seen enough of this Morocco team not to underestimate them, not to ask any questions of their capacity, not to underestimate them, not to say that they've come a step too far. And I really think that they will give France the most difficult game of their tournament so far.